Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the firm differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview on the Profit with Law podcast, but this is a special treat. It's a bonus episode. My team actually doesn't even know I'm doing this. It's crazy, but I was having a conversation with Joey Vitale today, and I'm going to talk to you about who he is in a moment. But I learned about this training that he's doing absolutely free for business owners, and he has a lot of law firm owners in his arena that this is catered to, and the opportunity is going to be gone. Like, the opportunity to join is right now. And I said, you know what, we need to just get behind a microphone, talk about it, let people know about it, because just my lifelong subscribers, the ones that are going to download this episode when it comes out, are the ones who are going to get the opportunity to take advantage of this. So it's not just a promo podcast. Like, we're gonna dive into some of the content to really give you some value and some insight into what he's teaching in this free training. But this is something that I think everybody needs to attend. So let me give you a little bit of background about Joey before I bring him on, so that you understand who he is, what my connection with him is, and why I am just so gung-ho about what is going on here. So Joey and I met through my own coach, and I talked about him on the podcast in the past. I've had him here on the podcast, James Wedmore. As a matter of fact, most likely coming up in June, we're going to be talking about his program or his free training that he's doing, and we position it as adding another revenue stream to your law firm. So not changing the niche that you serve, not changing the practice area that you serve, but adding another revenue stream. But anyway, as a business coach, a course creator, a membership site owner, I need my own coach, and he's the person I go to. So I was at one of his live events, and I had connected with Joey in the Facebook group there. We ran into each other in person, and there's something about Joey that, just like when he looks at you and he smiles, there's just so much authenticity, and just the way that he approaches in-person relationships. And those of you who know who he is are probably shaking your heads right now, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I instantly connected with him, and he is a trademark attorney with Indy Law is his business, his law firm. And I'm going to introduce him as the CEO and founder of Skybreaker, but our connection goes back way before that. We've done a number of trademarks through his law firm. We did an episode on the podcast where I talked about my relationship with his law firm, because right after I signed up, I got a package in the mail, and it was so on brand to what they were doing at the time, how they wanted to present themselves. And I'm realizing now that before we got behind the microphone, I probably should have looked up what that episode number is. So I'm going to look that up as I continue to talk, and I will get it for you in a moment. There used to be a time way back when I had less than 100 episodes, I could just spit the episode number out at you. But those days have passed. We're at 300 plus episodes. I don't remember it anymore. So the first time Joey was on the podcast was talking about being able to create courses as an attorney. And that was effectuating real change through courses with Joey Vitale. Anyway, Joey and I have continued to connect over time. He's spoken at the Law Firm Growth Summit. I don't remember if it's once or more than once, but definitely been a speaker at the event. I participated in it. And recently announced that he is changing or creating this business, Skybreaker. He's the CEO and founder of Skybreaker, and he has run a program that basically helps business owners to rapidly scale their business. And that means that they can get rapid leverage business growth by going through that. Now, you all know that, like, it's kind of what I do, right? But Joey focuses on the team side of it in a way that even I, as somebody who sits here and helps business owners with, was able to step into the room and really learn a lot from what Joey had to share and the way that he structured it. So I just went through that program. I was with him for 12 weeks, 6 weeks. I don't remember.
12 weeks.
12 weeks. And we were in a group of business owners, and we went through this process that really helped me get clear on team structure and delegation of responsibilities and ownership of responsibilities, and really getting clear on what are the steps that I need to take with my own team's growth to get myself to be where I need to be as a CEO. And when I heard that Joey was doing this training and he was going to be providing this to the public for free, I said, we really need to get him on the podcast. So really long introduction to bring Joey on. But Joey, welcome to the show.
Moshe, I am so honored, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all of the kind words. I love you, buddy. And I'm just so grateful to be here because as you know, Moshe, the reason behind me starting this program around team building is because me figuring out the puzzle piece of team was such a game changer, not only for my law firm and making it work, but also my own health and wellness. And I go deeper into this into the live training. But I had my own rock bottom experience health-wise. And the doctors that were treating me pretty much said, Joey, in order for us to be confident that we won't see you again very soon, you have to do everything that you can to make your law firm a stress-free law firm. And along the way, I realized that the decisions that I was making for my own health were also just really good business decisions looking back.
It's very interesting because as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about my interactions with your law firm, and you don't have any other attorneys on staff, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and you filed how many trademarks?
Over 790 at this point. We're almost at 800.
So our listeners have some idea as to the size or volume of business that you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And that you're one attorney. I met with you on our initial sales conversation where I purchased my very first trademark. And although we've had 1 million interactions since then, I have never had another interaction as attorney and client with you since then. And I just want that to sink into our listeners, because that is what's possible when you structure your systems, your processes, your team well. Now, not every practice area has that ability, right? Not every practice area can have the attorney does not need to interact with the clients. And that's not necessarily the goal,
right?
But just this concept of really everything that needs to be done with serving me, the customer service aspect of it, giving me pricing for the next trademark or the next package, the collection of information to be able to run a search and then submit the application and then follow up on it. And then the follow up with me. I'm getting regular messages from the law firm saying, hey, there's a period of time while your application sits that nothing's going to happen. We're just here to update you that nothing has happened. We haven't forgot about you. And I think that although I know it's automated, it's good to know that I'm still in that loop, right? And I'm still on the board in your system, in your software. I think that really demonstrates the power of what solving this can do for you.
Yes. It's interesting because if I can get a little meta and ninja here, we do have a growing number of other attorneys who are working with Indie Law, the law firm. And I don't have any full-time attorneys that are on the team, but we do have several contract attorneys that are helping. And part of the reason why we have them is because some clients, and in particular our law firm owner clients, tend to expect a conversation with an attorney ongoing. And so we have figured out ways to say, oh yeah, if you want to talk to an attorney, we can still make that happen. And again, this goes back to, yes, wanting freedom for myself and wanting the business to be healthy, but primarily it was on my own health. We wanted to make sure that systems were set up so that if something ever happened to me, all of our clients could still be taken care of.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want a check in the mail, please, for all the non-attorney time that I've saved you on not requiring an attorney conversation. I'd like my discount to be sent to me. But once we're sharing personal stories, I'm going to share mine, right? And my story, I don't want to go too deep into the story, but basically, I got married at 19 and I had my first child when I was 19. I got divorced at 26. So I was a single dad, and I dated my wife now and married her. And the children were, with me once during the week and every other weekend or whatever the schedule was. And we found out when my oldest, it was around the time that my oldest daughter graduated 8th grade. We found out that my ex-wife had become an alcoholic, and the kids moved in with me full time. It was a very tough period of time because they had gone through a lot of trauma during this process because it was happening. We didn't know about it. They were being left home alone. Just to highlight like how bad it was, there was one night, it was 3:00 in the morning, and they were like still awake, waiting for their mother to come home. So she was leaving them home alone, forbade them to call me, like God forbid that I should know that she was leaving them home. And they called her to try to reach her, like, it's 3:00 in the morning, where are you? And the phone was answered by a taxi cab driver who let them know that their mother had left the phone in the car with him. And so they had no way of reaching her. That's the kind of trauma that they were subjected to on a regular basis. So when they moved in with me full time, I had to address that. Like, my number one mission and goal was to get them to be as healthy as possible. And that required taking them to therapists, taking them to Alateen meetings, and they didn't make it easy on me. They each wanted a different therapist. They each wanted a different meeting. So I literally was running every week to 6 different appointments, different meetings, different therapist appointments, to get them the help that they needed. And this is while I'm supporting them, paying for an attorney to fight the court to remove visitation from their mom, who was showing up to those visits drunk. And also fighting to get my child support removed, which is the most asinine thing in the world, that they're living with me full time, but I still need to go to court and fight to get the child support removed. All this is happening, right? And I realized that I needed to have the flexibility to be there for my kids, and couldn't have somebody else dictate what my responsibilities were and what my time commitments were. And in order to do that, there was only one solution, and that's to be my own boss. And that's really what precipitated me starting my own business and really getting something I always wanted to do. But that was really the thing that pushed me, to get to building the business that I have. And I realized that if I'm going to be true to putting my family first, putting the focus on my family first, I need to um, build a team faster than most people probably would.
Yeah.
And I started, I'm gonna let you jump in a second.
Yeah.
I started with hiring a VA in the Philippines immediately. When this was really getting underway. This is before I started working with lawyers, by the way. 2017 is when I hired Tina, who is still with me today. Does a ton of work for us. She's going to produce this episode for us.
Hi, Tina.
And she's a rock star. She's amazing. But I recognized from day one that there's that exchange of time and money that is really going to be the secret ingredient in my success. I may not have done it well or perfectly as I executed, but that's the thing that takes a lot of business owners a lot of time to figure out when they're, building their business, is that the secret to success is not getting clients. Everybody says, oh, what's your problem? What do you need? And they say, oh, I need more clients. Secret to success is not getting more clients. It's creating more capacity so you can serve more clients.
Yeah, man, so well said. And I didn't want to cut you off earlier, but at the same time, I didn't want you to rush through the story so quickly that I couldn't say thank you for sharing, because I never heard that, Moshe. And I'm so grateful. I'm sure your audience, all the listeners, we probably all have our own stories of the definition of freedom that brought us to starting our own business. And if we're not super careful and intentional, then what actually happens is we have this monster of a business that we want to run and grow that gives us a fraction of the freedom that we had before. And that was why, again, I decided to focus so much after my experience on building the team, building that capacity, like you said. And a few years ago, we were looking at the future of indie law. And I was noticing that, a lot of intellectual property law firms, they don't just do trademarks, especially the ones that are 7-8 figure plus. And I was thinking, as we expand and we want to grow, we were talking about having complementary online courses and things earlier. We were thinking about what could we do to add complementing services and ways of helping people with indie law. And what we ultimately decided that we wanted to do is we wanted to create a complement that was outside of the legal realm entirely. Because through indie law, my team and I developed this real passion and purpose of giving business owners peace of mind through brand protection. And over the past few years, we've really felt a similar urge to help people get peace of mind, not just through brand protection, but also through team building.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that you were very intentional, at least from the outside perspective, from what I see. You were very intentional with building what you define as a leadership team. And most business owners hire from the bottom up, right? Like, oh, I need to fill this position, so I'm going to fill that position. I need to fill this position, I'm going to fill that position. And it's only when they get overwhelmed managing all the positions that they say, oh, I need to find somebody to oversee them. And I feel like you may have been intentionally building your leadership team at the same time or before putting those lower pieces in place. I'm not sure, but that's my perception of how you went about it. And I feel like now, where I stand with my business right now is I'm playing some catch up. I know what I need to change internally to get there, but thanks to you. But I fell into that same rhythm. And for those of you who are wondering, I I did invite Joey to come and be a coach in our elite law firm growth coaching program for this reason specifically. That and it was before I actually went through your program, but
Right.
recognizing that you had a secret sauce or a knack that would be really valuable for me to be able to share with our people, and you're able to support them in that way. In this free training that you're doing, you break down your process into 3 steps, or the journey for this. What are you calling it? Supercharged, the supercharged CEO, right?
Yep.
This isn't just another business course. It's our transformational 3-part framework that will change you from an overwhelmed and overworked entrepreneur into a visionary CEO. So walk me through that. What's the 3-part framework to get somebody to be a supercharged CEO? Because I know that our listeners are listening. They're like, okay, get to the good stuff. Like, what is it?
Right.
What's
Right.
you know what?
Well,
Before you answer that, just
sure.
Can you drop the URL first? If somebody wants to register for this training, by the way, when we're releasing this, it's a 3-part training series, and the first 2 already happened, but the replays of those are available. So when you register, you'll be able to watch them all. You can binge.
Absolutely.
I did you a favor by cutting the time frame shorter. You don't have to wait for it. But just so you know what to expect when you register, what's that URL?
It's stressfreescaling.net.
Stressfreescaling.net. So go ahead, Joey, and let us know what are the 3 steps.
Yeah. Well, before I get into them, you know how when you hear from like the best of the business owners and the coaches on that topic of like finding your company's core values, what they'll often say is, you don't have to really find your core values or come up with them. It's more about they're already there, right? It's not about coming up with your core values. It's about seeing what's already there. It's about finding them and putting language to it. When I first started the beginnings of what is now the Supercharged CEO, in the beginning, it was more of, let's just have a group coaching program where there's really no framework on the back end. It's just us having good conversations about what this means. And as we were having conversations, there were certain patterns that were coming up. And so we decided to create frameworks and things just to give us a structure of how to have these conversations. And so from that, we created this 3-part framework of elevate, empower, evolve. And I'll quickly go through what each of these means because it's pretty simple. So elevate is, what is your elevation plan? We hear it all the time that business owners have so many hats that we're wearing in business, but very few business owners actually take the time to identify all of the different hats that they are wearing and which one is more valuable than the other. And hopefully, if you're tuning into this, you probably have, because you've had Moshe in your corner. Hopefully you have been doing strategic planning in terms of thinking about your monetary goals over the next few years and how you're going to hit it. But what we like to think about too is when you look at your team chart, when you look at that organizational visual of who's doing what is your elevation plan so that over the next 3 or so years, you're wearing fewer and fewer hats and you're only wearing the ones that matter the most. And it can be really hard to delegate and to let go. But what we hear more and more is the more people actually just get clear on what it means, the less scary it is.
Yeah. And when you put it into hats, then I want to know, okay, which hat am I taking off, right? I want to take some hats off.
Yeah. So that's the first part, is that elevate piece. And then when it comes to empower, this is all about being a better and more effective leader. Because again, a lot of entrepreneurs say that I have to make my business work or else I have to go back to a 9-to-5. I'm going to say something that might get a bit of pushback from the listeners. I want to bet that if you're one of those entrepreneurs who the worst thing that could happen to you is that you have to go back to a job, I want to bet that what you're afraid of isn't actually working for another company. It's working for another company with the bad culture.
Yeah, I love
And I
that.
think a lot of us are committed to being our own business owner because we think that we can create something that was better than what we left.
Yeah, we have a great interview with Craig Goldenfarb. It either was just released or it's going to be released any week now. And after listening to that, our listeners will probably have a different viewpoint on what, what it can look like working for somebody else. And no, I'm not in the business of telling people to go work for somebody else, but if you're only in business to avoid working for somebody else, in other words, you're only in business to collect a paycheck, it's not worth the effort. Building a business is way harder than finding a job with good culture. So I love that you say that, because it's getting really clear on why you're doing what you're doing. And so many people come into my world and say, well, if I could only get the income that I had at my last job, I'd be thrilled. And the reality is, and some of these people have 3 or 4 attorneys working for them when we're having this conversation, right? And the reality is that that's not the purpose of your business. Right. There's so much more possibility, and it's not just money, right? It's time freedom. It's the impact that you serve. I was just in a workshop on Monday and Tuesday, and one of the epiphanies that I had is that I do trainings all the time, and I demonstrate like what the opportunity cost of not fixing it today is, right? And we talk about like financially, if you were able to earn $1 million this year, but you're only earning 200,000, then you're leaving 800,000 on the table. And if you compound that over 2 or 3 or 4 years until you finally figure it out 5 years from now, what is that costing you? It's not just, oh, I'm not going to achieve my goals today. It's so much more that you could have done over the next few years with that. And the epiphany that I had is that I need to demonstrate that. So I can demonstrate that like in a graph, and I could show you the 2 paths that you could take and where you would end up. But I also need to do that with your time. And I also need to do that with your impact, like how many clients served. If you had grown your business faster, how many clients would you be serving 5 years from now than if you just stayed the status quo and just hoped for the best, which at best is going to give you maybe 10% growth year over year, where you can have 100, 200, 300% growth year over year.
And if you want that growth and if you want that impact, you have to be a better leader than the leader that you left to start your business, which is way easier said than done because we're all hardwired with our caveman brains to be in survival mode all the time. And unless we are intentionally always reframing things, we will get stuck in what I call command and control style leadership instead of leading with a sense of trust and inspire. And so that's the second huge piece, is that if we want to have that growth, have that impact, and on the team side, attract and retain rock star talent, we have to be leaders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that terminology, trust and inspire. I know that you didn't make it up, but hearing it, seeing it really resonates with me. Like, we all want to do that. Nobody I think of, when I was growing up, my father ruled with the hand. And I think, and I don't know, maybe it was a generation thing, right? Maybe we're a different generation today, but nobody wants to teach their children how to behave by smacking them around.
Right.
And if we just had the skill set to know how to get them to do what we needed them to do, or what we knew was the best thing for them to do without doing that, we wouldn't have to. So I think everybody wants to lead with trust and inspire, but they don't have the skills or the tool chest to do that. And therefore they resort to, well, you work for me. If you want a paycheck, you got to do this.
Yeah. And this is why, and this isn't the purpose of this conversation, but this is why a program like the Supercharged CEO that we have, or Moshe's program, is so helpful, because it's not just how am I being a good leader to the team that I'm working with in my business, but it's also how am I being a trust and inspire person to those around me. And if you join a mastermind, a coaching program, whatever, chances are when you get in the Zoom room or that in-person room with people, you'll see that command and control tendency in the way that people are quick to give advice and to not really listen, but just to kind of pick up on a couple of things you say and then try and problem solve for you and be that superhero. And what I find is so fascinating is the more that you level up under this empower stage, yes, it helps you with your team, but it's like you put on contacts for the first time and you just see conversations differently across the board.
Yeah, that's very true. And yeah, as somebody who supports people for a living, I understand that I need to listen, right? Like, my job is to help people find the answer they already have within. I'm simply like the those tile things that go on the keychain, or the what is Apple's version of it?
Yes.
The Apple tag or whatever. Like,
yep.
That's my job, is just so they could press the button and hear the ringing, right? Like, I just need to help point them in the right direction. As leaders, as business owners, in our gut, we already know how we need to act and behave. We already know what we need to do. Sometimes we just don't know how to unlock it. We don't know how to execute on it. We don't know how to stay there when we know we need to be there.
Yeah.
And I use the example of parenting. I'm a parent. It's very natural for me to go back to that. So the non-parents who are listening, stick with me. But most parents who have ever hit their child immediately after regret it.
Yeah.
Like, why did I do that? There's so many other ways I could have solved this situation. And now I feel like shit as a parent because I did that. And we do that as bosses in our businesses. And who wants to feel like crap all day? Yeah.
And not to keep going back to this hitting your kids metaphor, but part of that is like, that wasn't the best version of you when you did that, right? And so much of being an empowering leader is being mindful enough so that every time you hop on a Zoom team meeting, you do the equivalent of like a backstage pump up before you go on stage and give a keynote talk, because you really are going on stage. Like it's similar to, being with your kid. And if you're not mindful in those ways, it's really easy for you to have one of those moments that's equivalent to, you just got off of a call, you're exhausted, and a kid or a pet is making noise in the background, and you lash out in a way that you regret later. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with business owners who have that type of, a teammate caught me at a bad moment and they saw a part of me that now I have to clean up.
Right. I wish I could take it back. I wish we can go back in time.
Yeah. And you're mindful enough to kind of already pick up on that, but that's a big part of this is how can we make sure that we are intentionally showing up as best versions of ourselves when we're with our team, which brings us to the third part, which is evolve. And this is especially true as you elevate in certain ways. And inside the training and my program, we have various milestones where it's a pretty big deal when you get from phase 2 to phase 3 and so on. But once that happens, it is very much the case of new level, new devil. And in order for you to continue to rocket at that level and elevate, you have to evolve who you are. And I love being able to talk about this stuff with Moshe because we have so much similar language around all of this, but it goes back to that be, do, have model, right? Of if you want to have something like that, it really goes back to how can I be different? How can I show up differently at this point?
Yeah, it's funny, on our call today earlier, I executed on that, whether you picked up on it or not, right? Somebody asked about their marketing budget, and and my response was, yeah, your budget should be set based on the future version of you, right? You need to operate today in the version of where you want to be, because that's what creates that possibility for you. So we definitely do talk about be, do, have on this podcast. I don't remember which episodes. Maybe my team can find it and put it in there. But since I'm impromptu doing this episode, we probably won't have it in there.
I don't want to put any more work on Tina. But this does go back to that piece that you addressed earlier, Moshe, of you seeing my team and my leadership team. The truth is, I was thinking about a leadership team way sooner than it really made sense for. You said that you hear this idea of like hiring, from the bottom up, and to an extent that is what I did. I was hiring from the bottom up with the top in mind, so to speak. And it was a combination of, yes, finding really amazing people overseas that can help, and finding people stateside, especially other types of entrepreneurs who were looking for a little bit more safety nets and some, easy money that they know would be coming month to month. And what I learned was, if you find good people that align with your core values and support your mission, and you can get them to trust you that you will keep a good culture for them, the right fits will care about that way more than bonuses and commissions and making more and more money.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you've, thought outside the box when it came to like assembling your leadership team. And I know this is not the focus of what you wanted to share on this podcast, but people just assume that if I'm going to hire somebody, it has to be a traditional, run an ad in Indeed, interview people in my office, and then hire somebody, $60,000 to $150,000 a year. Yes, I live in New York, and and pay the employment taxes on it and all that. The reality is that there's so many other opportunities and options out there. Virtual staff, whether stateside or whether international, and I don't even like to use the word overseas, because I've got somebody in Colombia, I've got somebody in Honduras. I don't know that they're overseas, right? They're they're just south of us, right? So and you looked at, okay, how do I get the people who I want at the top? It's a different skill set. Like, maybe I'm not looking in Colombia for them. Maybe I want somebody here in the US, but how do I find somebody who I don't have to hire a C-suite level executive person full time that's going to cost me, 100 plus a year, and put somebody in that role and own that responsibility?
Well, I'll share the hack too, which is I found them. I developed trust with them. And I said, look, you tell me how many more positions like this you want, and I will pimp you out to all of my friends. And so everyone on my leadership team, I have connected to probably 3 different companies that they've worked with over the years.
You've never pimped anybody to me, Joey.
Usually it was people who told me they were looking for someone and the timing was right. I know you're next in line, Moshe, when I see someone who needs it. But that was when I started sharing that, I got a lot of this was just an idea that I had, because I was like, I need to build a higher level team that can help me on a serious budget. And I know that I can't pay them enough for them to walk away from all the other options that they should probably be looking at if they want a good take-home pay for themselves to support their families. And my coach was like, Joey, you're making a huge mistake. If they pay way more, like all of your good players are going to be gone. And it wasn't the coach that Moshe and I have, but they were saying, Joey, this is a big mistake. And my response was, look, I think as long as I can compete on culture, I'm going to be just fine.
Yeah,
and none of them have left me.
Yeah. And I think that that goes hand in hand with the, trust and inspire that you talked about. And really it's one of the keys to business success, business growth is it's all about relationship building. It's all about connecting with others. And you can only do that if you show up as your authentic self. Hopefully your authentic self is a good version, because otherwise it's a really tough road to travel, really lonely road to travel, and really difficult road to travel. But everything that I've done in this business, the Law Firm Growth Summit, the podcast, like all of it is about connecting with other people, elevating them, bringing them in front of my audience, creating opportunities for them to get exposure. And through that, I get exposure, or through that, I get connection, or through that. And it's not like, oh, I'm doing it for that purpose. Like I genuinely want to highlight the people that I put there. I genuinely want them to be exposed to 2,500 law firm owners. I genuinely wanted to have this bonus episode with you on the podcast, not because there's something in it for me. It's because I want you to succeed. And I know that we have, X number of listeners are going to listen to this. And a bunch of them are going to say, yeah, I'm going to sign up and, I'm interested, but they're not going to take action. But there's going to be a handful that do. There's going to be a handful that are going to show up to your thing and their life is going to be changed and their business is going to be changed in a way that impact is something that 3 years from now, 5 years from now, I'm going to walk into a conference and I'm going to shake somebody's hand and they're going to say, thank you for doing that bonus episode with Joey. Because those are the differences.
Chills, man.
We have an opportunity to make.
Yeah. And those are the real wins. And part of my own journey too is, I'm not going to lie, I didn't have these big health issues. And then the next day, figure out all of this team stuff and everything was fine. My first thought after I was told I had to create a stress-free law firm was to slow everything down and be like, you know what, this is just going to be a Joey show. I'm going to lower my goals. I'm going to self-manage everything. And I quickly learned that trying to stay small, to stay safe, is a losing strategy.
Yes.
And I'm sure that there is someone tuning in that needs to hear this right now, because with the economy pointing in directions that it might be pointing in, with other things that might be happening in your life, you might be in a similar space where you're thinking, oh, I think I just want to go in the direction of this basically being a me business, where why would I bring on anyone, because that's money that I could just be paying myself to get the work done. You can't make the impact. I mean, even this, Moshe can't have that outcome of years from now, someone going to him being like, oh my gosh, thank you for that conversation. If Tina isn't also working on this podcast, editing it and putting it up, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And we're just to be really transparent and honest with the audience here. It is 11:45 p.m. on Wednesday night.
Right.
What's today? March 22nd. Okay. Tina is in the Philippines. It's her daytime right now. When we're done with this recording, I'm going to send her a message. She has no idea it's coming. And I'm going to say, Tina, I just decided to do a bonus podcast episode. Here, tell Daniel to go into Zoom and download it for you. Please publish it tomorrow. Here's the description. Here's the resources links. That's what's going to happen when we finish recording. And she's not going to be happy about it. Nobody likes being thrown work at the last second. And I don't encourage you to do that to your team.
Sure.
But I do, that is highlighting what happens when you have a system in place, when you have a team in place. There's a podcast episode getting released tomorrow. It's scheduled to get released tomorrow. And I may tell them to push it to Friday so that we're not releasing two on the same day. Haven't decided. But that's an easy change, right? Because it's all created. Everything's created for it.
Yeah.
This episode doesn't have anything created for it, but the episode is supposed to be released tomorrow. It has social graphics created. It has links created. It has a blog post written for it, and all of that is done weeks in advance.
Right.
Because there's a team, there's a structure. They find a guest, they book the guest. I show up to the interview. They get the guest to connect with me on social. They ask the guest to leave a review. All of those things happen without my involvement. And that's just one piece of the business, right? It's just, that's just one sliver of our marketing. We just launched our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and subscribe to the Profit with Law channel, by the way.
I just did.
I know, I got a notification.
Awesome.
But go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Look at what we're doing there. Okay. The video is getting released there on a consistent basis. We just started, but you'll watch it get released consistently. I'm not sitting there doing that. I'm not doing any of it. I did go down to Florida and produce 46 videos in 2 days with a production crew. I mean, like, we recorded the video, but they're doing the editing. They're posting it up for me. Like, they're doing all of that. My team, we built an internal process, and my team is taking all of our content, past podcast episodes, talks from the Law Firm Growth Summit, all of that stuff, and then chopping it into micro content and putting it up there on YouTube. We have enough stuff that, I mean, we'll keep you guys busy on that YouTube channel.
That's so good. That's so good.
But the point is that it doesn't take a lot of people to be able to create system and structure around the various things that are happening in your firm, to remove yourself from all of the small things that you have no business doing anyway.
Yeah, that's so good. And it reminds me too of just the snowball effect that happens once you start building team. Moshe mentioned that when he started working with Indie Law, that he was seeing things coming through and he was appreciating it, but he saw that there were, automations that were happening. One thing that we're getting to do now that the business is growing is we're adding in more kind of white glove, very human touch point to things as well. And it's our hope that as people like Moshe work with us over the years, every time they renew, they see those improvements. They see that we're getting better and better. And I can't think of anything but just that snowball analogy of, if you start with these tweaks of, I just want to have someone who, whenever we get a client, they create just a folder for me that I can start to dump stuff in. I think that was the very first thing that I ever assigned to a VA was, I just need you to create Google folders for me. That'll save me like 10 minutes and we'll go from there to maybe podcasts, to social media graphics, to creating automations, all the way to having people leading departments leading managers who are managing projects, who are doing the work for you. It's crazy how much again, I go back to the word evolve, but it's like, I just had a brain fart and forgot all of the Pokemon names, but it's like the initial Pokemon that you get when you start evolving to the next one and to the next one, and then it's like a total beast instead of being that cute one that you started with.
Yeah, I'm not a Pokemon person, so I'm the wrong guy to be asking. What's the name of that?
I would be
character?
super surprised if you had like all of them.
No, I have a close friend who's obsessed with Pokemon. I mean, he's a doctor.
I love it. I love
and
it.
he's, and he's like, oh, I can't come over now. We're on a Pokemon search. It's like, what is wrong with you? Anyway, I'm not judging anybody. I'm obsessed with football. Nope. I'm obsessed with poker. Like I have my own obsessions, but
yes, we're all nerds with something.
Pokemon is not it. But something that you said really got me thinking that I want to share one little nuance, and that is, we in our coaching program, we encourage our clients to start with inexpensive staff. And I know that you have a VA search service. Feel free to plug it, but I'm going to talk about Get Staffed Up for a moment. Get Staffed Up is a partner of ours that we send our clients to because they only do full-time. So if you want part-time, you gotta find another solution, but they do full-time international virtual workers. I don't even like calling them virtual assistants anymore because they really could do anything. And it's very inexpensive. It's like $1,850 a month for a full-time employee. And if you want $750 off of your initial onboarding fee, which is 1 month, then go to profitwithlaw.com/get staffed up. We'll put that in the show notes. One of our clients, so two of our coaching clients, both decided to implement Lawmatics. Now, for those of you who have implemented Lawmatics, you'll know that it's a great application, but it's not like plug and play.
Yeah.
So we have somebody in the industry, Jordan Nostroff, Legalese Marketing, who's a very tight integration partner with Lawmatics, and they charge $10,000 to implement Lawmatics in your business. So we have one client who has engaged Legalese to put Lawmatics in their business.
Love it.
And we have another client who took their VA and said, here's a piece of software. Here's what we need to do with it. Go figure it out. Set it up for us. Write some processes, and we'll go from there. And they went and figured it out. And it cost them 3 months, full time. Saved 50%. Right?
Yeah,
and now they have the internal knowledge in the business. It's not somebody else set it up for me. It's my employee set it up for me. Wrote internal processes of how to do all these things and what they did and what they learned so that somebody else could step in and do it. There's a lot of power in thinking about all the different things that you can delegate, all the different things that you can have someone else do. And it creates more capacity for you to do the things that are the highest value. What's the highest value for a business owner? It's those relationships that you're building. It's those clients that you're talking to make the sale. It's the clients you're talking to talk them off the ledge because they're not happy with something, right? It's fixing, it's the top level of customer service resolution, right? There are certain things that you as the owner need to do. And sometimes we're pushing off those important things because we need to order more toner for the copier.
Yes. It is a weird experience when you get to a point where you have delegated so much work that now you have nowhere to hide to get the work done that you need to be doing.
Yeah. I'm not there yet. I still I still am able to hide from the work I need to be doing, but that's part of the work as a business owner, is to recognize what are the things that you need to be focusing on and really focus on them. And when the things that are unimportant start to not get done, that highlights who you need to bring in and what you need to delegate, rather than pushing off the most important things and then slowing down your progress or killing your progress. When I first started my accounting firm, I got to a point, I was building it while I was working a full-time job. And I got to a point where I was maxed out and I wasn't able to produce quality work. So I would work hard to get clients, and then a client would leave because they weren't happy with what they were receiving. So it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, there was just no way that I could go beyond that until I increased my capacity, until we could handle more clients. So, the solution for me at that point was quit my job. But the solution for you, if you're the one doing the work, is bring on somebody else to do the work, right? So I'm going to share one analogy that I started sharing more recently, and I shared it at the Law Firm Growth Summit. And I think that this is going to help put in perspective how a business owner needs to be thinking about the whole team building process. And I call it capacity, by the way. So in the Law Firm Growth Formula, which is what we embody and teach our clients to stick to that in order to figure out what should I be doing next. We have three main components: plan, grow, scale. Planning is obvious. Grow is when we are growing into the capacity we have. That's where marketing sits, right? That's where client acquisition sits. I can't acquire more clients if I don't have the capacity to serve them. But it doesn't make sense for me to add to my capacity if I don't have the capacity currently filled, right? So we grow into that capacity, and then we scale, we increase our capacity to then grow again into that capacity, right? The way that I want our law firm owners listening to think about this is, in the state of Arizona, it's the first place where a non-attorney can own a law firm. So if I, a non-attorney, were to decide I am an investor, with my capital, I'm going to start a business in Arizona, and why not pick a law firm?
Right.
All right. First of all, if you start thinking about that, and you really, really start thinking about it, how would I choose my practice area? Would it be based on what feels good to me, or would it be because I researched SEO, I researched the marketplace, and I checked to see what's the demand and what's the supply, and which is the one that's the most in demand, that's going to be the easiest for me to find clients for?
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, I'm going to change the whole way I approach who I even serve. But, and this is the kick in the pants, right? What is the first hire I'm going to make in my business? I'm providing legal services, right? I need an attorney. So when you go to your business, you just assume you're the attorney. But if you really understand that you're the business owner, like if you really own that role, and you say, I'm not doing legal work.
Yeah.
You would hire an attorney on day one, and imagine what your law firm could be doing if you had made that hire on day one. I'm not saying that everybody should go out and hire an attorney. You need, the other piece that I mentioned is capital, right? So you need to have the capital to do it.
Sure.
But if you did, you, on day one, when you open shop, you would have a marketing company in place or an internal marketer in place. You would have an attorney in place. You would have a paralegal in place. You'd probably have a receptionist, law clerk, whatever in place. You would have everything in place, and you wouldn't be worried about, oh my gosh, I got to carry a $60,000 a month overhead. Because within 3 months or 4 months, you'll be doing 5 times that in a month.
Right.
So what's crazy is that the beginning journey is the longest part of the growth of the law firm. From solo to solo and assistant, to solo and assistant and a paralegal, to finally deciding to hire an attorney, making a bad hire, firing them, then licking our wounds for 18 months until we get the stamina to try it again, right?
Yeah.
And when any law firm owner looks back, those first 5 years are the biggest joke of the entire journey. Because when you finally hired an attorney and it was the right fit and it was the right person, the business skyrocketed. Because when you have an attorney who all they do is legal work, suddenly you have 1,600 hours a year at a minimum of billable work.
Yeah.
When you as a business owner could eke out, according to the Clio report, 2 hours a day.
And now it goes back to
600 hours a year.
Yeah. And now it becomes a question of what do we do to keep this person happy here? Instead of all of the attorney questions, including, what are all the CLEs I have to go to? How do I need to be the best attorney here? It's the bigger your business, your law firm gets, the more the people side matters, and the sooner you develop skills and mastery on the people side of your firm, the faster your business will explode in a good way once you start bringing on these key teammates.
Yeah. Joey, I told you we were going to have a 20-minute conversation. I think we're about an hour.
Okay. I wasn't necessarily expecting anything different, and I was still really looking forward to it.
And, but I want to respect the time of our listeners. And I know that what we're talking about is really valuable. And you're probably having epiphanies as we're talking. But the reality is that Joey put a lot of work into his training, and he's covering this exact stuff. I mean, 3 separate training sessions, stepping through, helping you see and guide you through this process. And we can come back and have fun. We can talk behind the microphone again. Like there's, we can riff anytime we want. But I think right now, what we really need to do is we really need to direct our listeners to go and check this thing out. And by the way, if you're not on my email list, like if you're not getting the Profit with Law emails, you're going to miss out on an opportunity. So Joey's doing this free training, which you're absolutely welcome to go and register for, and take, and you're going to get a ton of value from it. But when he's done, he's going to open up this program that I just finished. I just finished going through it. And he's going to open that up for sale. And I don't know if he's limiting how many people he's taking in, but I can tell you it is extremely, extremely valuable. The people that were in the room in the last go around, these are people that you would consider influencers. Like I was in the room with people who I look up to. Yeah. And that's the caliber of the program that he runs. You're going to be wondering if you should be joining. You're going to be thinking about joining. And I told Joey that we're going to release our own extra free thing for our community, that if you join Joey's program, all you need to do is email us and let us know, and we'll invite you to what that is. I'm not going to share what that is right here on the podcast. You have to be on our email list. We're going to email about it when Joey opens up registration for his program. But it's going to be valuable. It's going to be something you want. So if you're not on our email list, in the resources section of this podcast, I'm going to put our support email. It's info@dreambuilderfinancial.com, because I don't have a landing page for you to go and register for or anything like that. Just send us an email and let us know, hey, can you subscribe me to your email list? Can you subscribe me to your marketing list? I want to know when Joey's program opens, what the bonus is that you're going to provide. I'm going to take what Joey is teaching, and I'm going to marry that to what we teach. I'm going to do some free training for you guys. So it all starts with registering at stressfreescaling. Is it .co?
.net.
.net. Stressfreescaling.net is the the URL. We're going to put that in the resources section, stressfreescaling.net. Go register, go through the training series, and I promise you, it's not going to be 3 hours that you've wasted. Actually, I have no idea how long the training is, but it will be time well spent. Sure. It will be time well spent. And you're going to come back and you're going to thank me for giving you this opportunity. And I would love nothing more than for you to let me know what you thought about it, and give me that feedback. So, Joey, thanks for coming on, doing this it is now 12:05 a.m. I'm not. I want our listeners to get a picture of what's going on here. Okay. Like, I'm standing in my office when most people are sleeping and having this conversation with Joey because it's that important to me that I get this in front of you. And I hope that you're listening to this in time and that you're able to access this training. And if it's gone, because Joey's he's going to take it down. If it's gone and you're listening to this in the future, send us an email. Again, that email will be linked, info@dreambuilderfinancial.com. Send us an email. Let us know. We'll get in touch with Joey and see if we can get you access to it or a waiting list or whatever needs to happen. But for those listeners who are subscribed, who listen to our podcast regularly, you're listening to this right now, and it's the perfect time, perfect opportunity. We're 3 months into the year. We're nearing the end of March. You probably had some lofty goals for 2023. And unfortunately for some, they're already questioning, is it possible for me to achieve this? I don't think I made enough progress so far. I'm 3 months in. What have I done? You can catch up. Yeah. By making the right moves with your team. Anything is possible by making the right moves with your team. And the less your business depends on you, the more likely you are to get back on track this year. Yeah. Man, I need to take notes. I said some really cool stuff. Joey said some really cool stuff. I need to go back and listen to this episode. Sometimes I do that, by the way. Some people can't do it, but I go back and listen to some of our episodes, and sometimes I'm sitting there saying, "Wow, I sound smart." Like, I said some really cool things, but often it's the guest. Like, wow, I was talking to them, so I was involved in the conversation, but when I listen to it, I'm hearing a different version. Like, it's sinking in a different way, and it's amazing. What I get to pick up. I don't have the time to listen to all of them, but I do consume some of them, and it's really cool. All right, so we're gonna end it here. Thank you, listeners, for bearing with us through this. If it was long, I apologize, but I intended for it to be just Joey and I having this conversation in front of you, and hopefully bringing you some real insight and value in the process. So go to stressfreescaling.net. And if you're not a subscriber and this is the first episode you're listening to, there's a lot of amazing episodes here. Hit the subscribe button so that you get notified every time we release a new one. And if I decide
smash that subscribe button, leave Moshe a review, go onto his YouTube, hit subscribe there too, do all the things.
Yeah, I didn't want to overwhelm our listeners. Like, go sign up for Joey's thing. We'll talk about the rest on the next episode, right? Like, let's not. I know that you're listening to this while you're doing the dishes, while you're out for a run, while you're in the shower, while you're driving, whatever it is. Like, just remember one thing: stressfreescaling.net. The rest will all come to you. Thanks, Joey. Really appreciate you. And I'm excited for what you're putting out into the world and the opportunity that you're making possible for all the business owners who are going to go through your stuff. My pleasure. Thanks, Moshe, and to everyone for tuning in. All right, take care, folks. We'll catch you on the next episode. That's it for this week's episode of Profit with Law. If you have enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with at least one person. Imagine how many lives we can change if we each shared this episode. Another way to share the episode is on social media. We appreciate your support and look forward to you joining us again next week.